Hello, I'm CJ Werleman, and in this episode, we reveal the moral and ethical superiority of the Palestinian resistance over the State of Israel. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. A new poll shows that support for Israel has fallen to its lowest point since Gallup began polling American attitudes 25 years ago, with 51% of the total US population now favouring Palestine over the Zionist state, which means our mission could not be more clear. We must hammer away and continue to erode whatever support Israel has remaining among the US electorate, or at least until 80 or even 90% of Americans wish for the total and complete dismantlement of the criminal Israeli occupation. And as a journalist who has covered the conflict for the past 15 years, I believe nothing is more persuasive than highlighting the moral and ethical superiority of the Palestinian resistance over Israel's security forces, particularly as it relates to how each side treats its respective hostages and prisoners of war. Because as the saying goes, you measure moral integrity by the way you treat people when nobody is watching. This was my logic when I argued that Hamas deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for keeping Israeli prisoners safe and well for 18 full months, while Israel indiscriminately carpet bombed the Gaza Strip, destroying 90% of all buildings and slaughtering upwards of 100,000 people. I mean, look at what's left of the Palestinian territory. Nothing. It's been atomized into dust. 85,000 bombs have transformed this once bustling territory into a barren, unlivable wasteland. Yet somehow, under all of this destruction and carnage, the Palestinian resistance kept their Israeli hostages and prisoners alive and thriving, which was why all of them publicly thanked Hamas for keeping them safe from Israeli warplanes and artillery.
شكرا لكتابك السام على كل المعاملة الكويسة.
شكرا للأكل والشرب والملابس.
شكرا للشباب اللي كانوا يحفظوا علينا ودير بالو علينا من كاسف وإن شاء الله يكون.
Freed Israeli hostages and prisoners couldn't have escaped their ordeal looking any better. They emerged from their captivity well-nourished, happy and content. They survived and thrived in impossible circumstances, and it's why all expressed enormous gratitude towards Hamas for keeping them safe from the Zionist army's mass-killing machine, remembering that Israeli forces killed more than 40 of their own hostages during this genocide. One of the released hostages, Agam Goldstein Almog, told reporters that Hamas guards covered us with their bodies to protect us from our own forces shooting and bombing. End quote. Now I want you to think about this for a moment, because her testimony destroys Zionist propaganda that falsely alleges Hamas use their own citizens as human shields, when in reality it turns out the complete opposite is true. Hamas willingly use their own bodies to protect innocent civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian. And if that doesn't undermine every lie you've been told by Zionist-friendly media, then listen to what she had to say to an Israeli television outlet.
עשיתי הורדת ידיים, אבל הוא הביא מגבת, כי אסור לו לגעת בי.
אישה היא מאוד, אישה היא קדושה שם.
אישה היא מלכה. היו עושים לי שיחות איך לשמור על אגם. הסברנו להם שגם אצלנו לפעמים כן יש שלאגם יכול להיות חבר, או יכולים להיות לה כמה חברים לפני שהיא תתחתן. אני אפילו מעודדת את זה, שהיא תתנסה, שהיא תכיר, לפני שהיא אצלה מוסד הנישואים. אבל היינו מתאמתים על זה.
כן, גם אמרו לי, אנחנו מחתנים אותך בעזה. את בעזה, את מתחתנת. אנחנו נמצא לך גבר בעזה.
הם נתנו לה שם מאוד יפה. שם ערבי מאוד יפה.
סלסביל. זה מים, זה כתוב להם בקוראן, מים מתוקים כזה.
מתוקים.
עכשיו אמרתי לו שזה קטע, כי השם שלי בישראל זה אגם.
There's nothing unique about her testimony. Her words are echoed by every released Israeli hostage, all of whom have thanked Hamas for treating them with kindness. One even kissed his former captors on their foreheads while telling them he hoped to see them again. Others have said this.
Food good and the kindness and everything good.
The question is, why did you shake that Hamas activist hand when you crossed? Because they treated us very nicely. My mom is saying that they were very delicate and gentle with them and took care of all their needs.
Not one Israeli hostage was abused, none were tortured, none were raped, and none were starved. And even more importantly, these hostages should have been kept in captivity for only 1 or 2 days, given Hamas offered to release all of the hostages on October 9th, 2023, in exchange for the Israeli army not invading the Gaza Strip. But this offer was rejected by the Zionist regime for the simple reason the hostages were always just an excuse for Israel to commit genocide. In other words, Hamas took hostages to prevent a genocide, but Israel denied their freedom as a pretext to commit genocide. It's really just that simple. And this is why the released hostages are causing the Israeli government a lot of reputational damage. So much so that the country's security minister has now accused Israeli hostages of being Hamas sympathizers. Yes, that's right. We have reached the stage where Israeli hostages are now Hamas. And if you're keeping score at home, Israel has also accused the following international bodies of being Hamas: the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, and Amnesty International. Hamas, Hamas, and Hamas. Everyone and anyone who doesn't parrot Zionist lies and manipulation is Hamas, which means the allegation can no longer be considered an insult, but a compliment. A compliment supported by the way in which Hamas treats its prisoners of war. These former POWs and hostages have become a massive public relations nightmare for the Zionist state, because many are courageously coming forward to reject bogus claims they were mistreated or abused by Hamas in captivity, while others explain how Israeli forces were responsible for their injuries.
In this moment that I'm still sitting with you, it's a miracle that I'm here. It's a miracle because I've survived 7 October, October 7, and I survived this bombing, and I survived also the rescue.
Let's now compare how Israel treats its nearly 10,000 Palestinian political prisoners, and in this sense, the term political prisoner is no different than the word hostage, because that's what you call an innocent person who has been taken captive for committing no other crime than living or breathing. But whereas Israeli hostages were returned to their families happy, healthy, and smiling, and after being given a welfare check by the International Red Cross, whereby their well-being was confirmed by public medical examinations, the way in which Palestinian hostages were returned could not have been made starker. One had the Star of David branded into his forehead. Others looked like they survived a Nazi concentration camp. Many required immediate hospitalization, while others cried in distress and gave harrowing testimonies about abuse and torture.
طلعنا من الجحيم، ضرب قمعات، غاز، تربيط في الشتوية على المي، بهدلة رسمي، السجن جحيم، جحيم جحيم جحيم.
Rape and torture of Palestinian hostages is so systemic, routine, and widespread that even Israel's closest ally can't deny Israel's practice of sexually abusing and torturing Palestinians.
So we have seen the video, and reports of sexual abuse of detainees are horrific. They ought to be investigated fully by the government of Israel, by the IDF. Prisoners need to be treated, prisoners' human rights need to be respected in all cases, and when there are alleged violations, the government of Israel needs to take steps to investigate those who are alleged to have committed abuses and, if appropriate, hold them accountable.
A report released by an Israeli human rights group accused Israeli security forces of operating a network of torture camps, where Palestinian men, women and children are routinely subjected to varying degrees of sexual violence, including blows to the genitals, sodomization with chairs and sticks, and also gang rape. And if that's not sickening enough, then consider that Israeli soldiers and guards openly boast about raping Palestinian hostages, and even worse, when they do come forward to confess their sexual violence, they are treated as conquering heroes by mainstream Israeli society, with thousands recently participating in a Right to Rape rally to express solidarity with Israeli guards that raped Palestinian hostages at a torture camp. Let me say that again. A Right to Rape rally. A so-called right that's strongly advocated by members of the Israeli government.
הטרלול שהמדינה שלנו נכנסת אליו סביב הסיפור הזה הוא מטורף וצריך להפסיק אותו. ואני חושב שצריך פה לתת דוגמה אישית, ואני אומר עכשיו, ואני קורא לחברי הקואליציה לעשות כמוני, אני קם ואני יוצא מפה, ואני לא הולך להצביע יותר על שום דבר, עד שהסיפור הזה והטרלול הזה, שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אוקיי? ואני מאוד מבקש, ואני חושב שחבריי בקואליציה טוב יעשו, אם יעשו כמוני. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו. הכל. הכל.
זה מה שרציתי.
הכל, האנשים האלה, אתה יודע מה עשו?
אוקיי.
טוב.
יש דברים שלא עושים.
Time will tell whether or not the ceasefire deal will hold, but whether Israel continues its genocidal campaign or not, roughly 10,000 Palestinian hostages will continue to languish in Zionist tortured dungeons, while another 7 million Palestinian refugees are denied their right to return home. Therefore, we must continue to fight until every Palestinian is freed and until every Palestinian returns safely home. Nothing short of the total liberation of Palestine will accomplish these objectives. Now, let's get to work. But that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we kindly ask you please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJWerleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow the show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.